Here we are in book 10 and racing along through the Aeneid. Hopefully, you have got yourself right into the middle of the kind of Iliad battle stuff. And here we are in the key events of book 10. After the night raid of book 9 and the whole kind of rummaging around trying to defend the camp, there's a pause at the start of book 10 where the Council of the Gods convene, and Jupiter basically says to everybody else, just stop it, thank you very much. I'm actually not interested in fiddling around with all your little plans. This fighting can just carry on, and it can just run its course. He doesn't want any to intervene in any specific way. After the Council of the Gods, the Trojan camp is then besieged by Turnus the Rutulians, but is then relieved by Aeneas returning with Pallas and the Etruscan forces as reinforcements for the Trojans. As part of the battle then, Pallas goes out, starts fighting. Eventually he comes up against Turnus, and he's no match for Turnus, an experienced warrior. And Turnus kills him, which is kind of part of the war kind of thing. But the problem is that he then takes Pallas's belt as a prize, and so this is where Turnus has actually done something that it goes beyond what is actually really acceptable. As he kills him, he says in line 491, "Take this message of mine to Evander, you Arcadians. Do not forget it. I am sending him back the Pallas he deserves. Whatever honour there is in a tomb and any comfort he finds in burying him, these I gladly give him. His hospitality to Aeneas will cost him dear." So he goes beyond what's acceptable, and he takes the belt as a prize. Aeneas, if you remember in book 8, had made a special promise to Evander. "Don't you worry, Evander. You may be too old for war, but I'll look after Pallas, your only son, who is given to you late in life." Oh, dearie me, Aeneas. This is bad, because Aeneas hears this news and suddenly then realizes what's happened. And actually he goes on a killing spree trying to find Turnus. And there's an interesting metaphor that's in line 513. "Everything that stood before him he harvested with the sword, cutting a broad swathe through the enemy ranks and burning with rage as he looked for this Turnus flushed with slaughter. Before his eyes he could see Pallas, Evander, everything." Oh, dearie me, Aeneas. Not great. No wonder you're cross. And so Juno rushes down to the battle, removes Turnus, and as a result, Aeneas's furore can't be fulfilled by the death of Turnus. It climaxes with the deaths of Mezentius and Lausus, which are towards the end of book 10. So we're into battle, but battle is not concluded. Within that, there is a little bit of Roman context, not very much. Jupiter makes a reference to a war that will come up in the future. He says, "Why is there discord against my express command? The time will come for war, when barbarous Carthage will let destruction loose upon the citadels of Rome." So what we're talking about here is the Punic Wars between Carthage and against Italy. This is where famously Hannibal leads elephants across the Alps and even threatens at one point to destroy Rome in 205 BC before he's pushed back, 210, 205 BC, before he's pushed back. And it's not until 146 BC that the Romans actually finally defeat Carthage. The other thing is a small kind of small point, but perhaps the portrayal of Aeneas's arrival at the battlefield is some comparison to Augustus at Actium. Augustus wasn't actually in charge of the fleet at Actium. He'd got his general Agrippa to do that, but both of them are being portrayed as righteous and majestic here. Stylistically, we come to the crux of what's happening in book 9 and 10, which is the nature of war in Virgil. In Homeric war, war is glorious, and all who participate can get glory. It's the inevitable condition of humanity that what happens is conflict occurs and there's going to be fighting. Both sides tend to receive equal treatment in a Homeric portrayal, particularly in the Iliad. Virgilian war, in contrast, is a horror. and actually war's an evil which one day is going to be fading away when the world becomes civilized. So if you have a think about the context of when Virgil's writing, this gives you the clue as to why it is he writes in this style. Virgil has grown up at a time of war and of civil conflict, and so he knows what civil conflict is actually like, and therefore that horror of war runs through all of his work. His description is horrific, but it's there and horrific because he wants you to understand that war is something that should be avoided. And then finally, character developments. You're going to see on your worksheet on the next page of the booklet Juno and Venus, and there's some further characterization of them. So you can pop your conclusions about them on here. The other thing is Aeneas. And it's very interesting, isn't it? Aeneas's behaviour in book 10, line 518 to 521, may pose some questions about Aeneas that you hadn't thought about before. Up to now, he's struggled with his duty, he's been the leader, he's been negotiating alliances, but listen to this bit. As he sets off into battle, 4 warrior sons of Sulmo he now captured alive, and 4 reared by Ufens, to sacrifice them as offerings to the shade of Pallas and pour their captive blood on the flames of his pyre. Sorry, hang on a minute. 4 of Sulmo, 4 of Ufens, to sacrifice them as offerings. So what Aeneas is doing here is he's taking captives who he's going to use as human sacrifice at Pallas's funeral. This maybe is a point about Aeneas which really asks you to reconsider quite what a man he is and what a leader he is. So there's your book 10. Hopefully that's helpful filling out the booklet.